a Merry dude, and a Happy New Year. Yeah, you already know what it is. I'm gonna pick one or two. Oh, I'm gonna watch several Christmas movies with varying levels of festiveness and decide on one or two to add to my existing Christmas list. To my existing list of Christmas movie recommendations, including, in no particular order, Arthur Christmas, Carol, Tangerine, Klaus, Tokyo Godfathers, Brazil, The Rankin-Bass Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Snowman, How the Grinch Stole Christmas 1966, In Bruges, The Muppet Christmas Carol, and The Holdovers. If you can't tell from that list, some of these are going to be obviously undeniably Christmassy, and others will simply take place over Christmas and be kick-ass otherwise. In other words, it's all vibes, baby, vibes only. This flexibility allows me to include and or recommend cool that you might not have seen or have previously considered to be especially holly jolly, and encourages me to find stuff that I haven't seen before, which is that that I like to do. So let's just get started. Anyone who knows my tastes knew this was coming, but some of you might be saying, "Objection! But Boxhead, Nosferatu isn't a Christmas movie." Oh, really? Then what's this? I rest my case. Anyway, everything on a technical level in Nosferatu is just excellent. The direction, acting, cinematography, screenplay, production design, score, sound design, like listen to this door. This is the most creakingest door to ever creak as a door. This movie makes juggling dread, terror, and horror.
Ribs visible, eyes bloodshot, thrusting away.
Look really easy for anyone who cares about the technical distinctions between the three. It's very atmospheric and frankly pretty cold emotionally, but I mean the whole movie's pretty cold. Blue is without a doubt the most used color in the whole palette. Not that I would change anything, it looks great for it. Also, just so I don't skip over this, my god, the cinematography in this is so good. There are so many long shots that like just reframe multiple times, and it is so elegant and efficient and effective. So, for those who enjoy prestige filmmaking and the craft of the moving image, this movie is practically hypnotic. However, it has been reported that Robert Eggers is currently developing a Christmas Carol adaptation, and I don't need to double up on the same director on the list, you know? I think I can do a little bit better than that. Plus, that will be overtly Christmassy, whereas Nosferatu, I am definitely stretching a little bit, and I feel like I can only get away with that once per year, so I'm gonna save that for the final film I'm talking about this year. But it is probably a safe bet to assume that Eggers' Christmas Carol will be on my list when it comes out. And given where we're at as a culture, it's probably good that a horror director is going to take a crack at a story made to scare the out of the parasitic billionaire class. Not that I think it would help, those people are sociopaths. But yeah, okay, so just wanted to acknowledge Nosferatu. Let's move on to something a little bit more mainstream. How about Home Alone? People like that, right? Everybody likes that. I have some fond memories of Home Alone, as I'm sure many millennials do, but I didn't include it in my original list because it isn't part of my own family's annual Christmas traditions, and also because it's overexposed and mid-get-fucked. Home Alone is quite simply known, and I wanted to have room in my list for sad lesbians, mayhem, anime, and Muppets. Tell me you wouldn't do the same in my position. Anyway, Home Alone is cute. It's a fun, safe family comedy about a little boy getting left at home alone. Kevin! While the rest of his extended family goes on Christmas vacation. There's also a bunch of physical comedy near the end when the kid defends his house from a home invasion, yada yada yada. People consider this a Christmas classic. This film feels very of its moment though. It captures a kind of brief moment between the end of the 80s and the internet being literally everywhere. In the air, in the walls, in your mind. And again, I really do think cute is the best word for it. It's competent but not exceptional. And honestly, it feels a little flat visually. There's nothing that's going to challenge you with the possible exception of how rich this family is, which fills me with jealousy and rage. Look at the size of this house. Look at all these kids, and they're going to Paris for Christmas. Wow, I hate it here. I will say that this is kind of a standout performance for a child actor though. Like, no matter what anyone says, acting isn't easy. And this little guy has so much screen time that he probably had very few days off. I can't imagine what that kind of work schedule does to a little kid. Plus the pressure of essentially carrying the movie. And Macaulay Culkin does a good job for a child actor. He doesn't seem that much like a child, like he's strangely well-spoken for his age. But knowing about how a film set operates makes this child's performance performance genuinely impressive to me. I cannot imagine doing what he's doing at that age. Oh, but the castle doctrine sequence, let's talk about that a little. Oh, the mischief, the hijinks, physical comedy, schadenfreude, comeuppance, all that is broad appeal. But I imagine this sequence is also a bit of a power fantasy for children. Like, Kevin goes through a lot emotionally in this film, but ends up hyper competent. He got the milk, the eggs, and fabric softener. And he doesn't even tell his family about fighting back the brigands. So he's a modest little fella. We like that for him. What a good little man. However, long story short, I simply don't feel a strong resonance with this film, and it would be disingenuous to pretend that I do. There just isn't really enough that stands out about the film, and again, it isn't challenging, doesn't have a particularly unique perspective, or lean into any noteworthy aesthetic sensibilities. Reliably uplifting seasonal entertainment is a precious commodity, but this film simply doesn't need my endorsement for people to keep watching it, and as far as I'm concerned, it is one of the films of all time. That said, let's move on to something with a bit more sauce. I've seen a good few of the other Kubricks before, but never Eyes Wide Shut, and boy, oh boy, what a pleasant surprise. After sleeping on Barry Lyndon for so long, I probably should have known better, and maybe it's the Tylenol 3s talking, but this slaps! It's the last thing Kubrick made, so I knew it was safe to say it probably had very detailed and deliberate mise-en-scène and is extremely competent, or at least intentional in all other areas of production. Just a real clean-looking production, where anything weird's gonna be on purpose, even if it doesn't have a huge payoff. With that in mind, Eyes Wide Shut is about Tom Cruise sneaking his way into a sex cult after being emasculated by his wife Nicole Kidman, who wants to cuck him just so bad.
He was kissing me, then we were making love. Then there were all these other people around us, hundreds of them everywhere. Everyone was full. I was full. Other men, so many. I don't know how many I was with. And I knew you could see me in the arms of all these men. Just all these men. I wanted to make fun of you, to laugh in your face.
Which is a shame, because late 90s Tom Cruise in a vacuum is so dude. Look how handsome this little short king is. Imagine how many apple boxes he needed to stand on to look as tall as Nicole Kidman in some of these shots. God, Hollywood is so stupid. Actually, on a slightly deeper level, Bill's hamartia is definitively his neurotic sense of masculinity. He is competent, respected, and well paid as a doctor, and like all doctors, his proximity to and influence over life and death, as well as his comfortable, affluent lifestyle, have given him a distorted, complacent, and ultimately fragile sense of confidence and knowing. Like, you know how doctors can kind of think they know everything, how they'll try to explain, rationalize, and justify anything just so that nothing has to change, so that they never have to admit that the world has more nuance or is more unjust than they'd like. This movie spotlights how naive that kind of thinking is when an individual is presented repeatedly with evidence to the contrary, and how damaging it can be to the ego. Which is pathetic, let's be real. And like, oh, you thought you knew everything but found out you didn't? Wow, that must be so hard for you. I think this is why, or part of why, the film is set at Christmas. Not synchronizing with the tone, mood, or traditions of a holiday or annual custom can be internally humiliating for people who benefit most from cultural hegemony. So surrounding this thoroughly embarrassed manlet with the symbology of a holiday as familial and jolly as Christmas enhances his discomfort and feelings of inadequacy, and makes him more desperate to resolve or compartmentalize these feelings as quickly as possible. It'd be like setting a movie where a character just got broken up with on Valentine's Day, or a character discovering they're infertile on Easter, or something, right? What's Easter about again? Anyway, this film starts real comfy and gets slutty real quick. Makes me want to have some bubbly. Like, you ever seen shot reverse shot where a woman's naked body is objectified in both frames? From the group sex scenes to unconscious women OD'd at fancy Christmas parties to Nicole Kidman's very visible nips, no judgment, through her bedclothes, be aware that the male gaze really puts in some work on this one. I think it's probably clear at this point that I do quite like this movie though. It's very well crafted and has a lot of dimensionality in how it represents desire and sensuality. All of which is to say, I'm putting my flag in it. It's made the list. Congratulations, Eyes Wide Shut. Generally, it just feels mature. Exploitative, but mature. It's cozily uncomfortable, and the tension and dread I get watching these very attractive and sexually frustrated people bumble their way through their marital issues, I don't know, there's a way in which it feels like a Stanley Kubrick domestic melodrama. It's melodramatic in an understated, perhaps even sophisticated kind of way. Like, you just watch this consummate professional type guy squirm and explore his insecurity with intimacy in really big ways. The socially reinforced know-it-all looking pathetically naive and floundering amidst oligarch sex cultists at Christmas, that's interesting. That's that's entertainment. For a precious few people, though, I fear. I'm a little weirdo cinephile reviewing Christmas movies on the internet, so this may simply be a case of my bias showing, which is to say, don't watch this with your parents or children, don't put it on at the family Christmas party, and don't watch it with people who have no interest in ever seeing Barry Lyndon, 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Shining, or Doctor Strangelove. And don't you sleep on Barry Lyndon either, that's great! In any case, please allow me to apologize, or piss everyone off by glazing some normie shit.
I feel it in my fingers.
I'll just say it, Love Actually is cute. Relentlessly so, actually, starting with the fact that it acknowledges that it is very intentionally and very cynically set at Christmas. If there is another reading of the opening scene, I don't know what it is. If you're gonna make trash, you get points for me by acknowledging that it's trash, and then making the best trash you possibly can anyway. I really respect that.
This is shit, isn't it?
Yep. Solid gold shit, Maestro.
I'll admit that I avoided this one for a really long time too, because the people that recommended it to me were the kind of people who would recommend like The Blind Side or Ready Player One or Reading. And like, bro, I'll watch almost anything once, but I am here for the cinema, all right? Bland, indulgent slop does very little for me, so believe me when I say that this is kind of fun. To refocus, Love Actually is an ensemble piece, so it's at its best when two things happen. One, when focus jumps between storylines frequently enough to keep the pace bouncy, and two, the events of unique storylines converge with each other in novel, unexpected ways. Also, if the writers and editors on films like these know what they're doing, scenes from different storylines that rhyme or contrast thematically will be right next to each other. And this film does all that, so that's good, as well as having a pretty easy to read tonal arc. We still following Freytag's pyramid in a relative sense, it's just that the focus is split. So yeah, the film has several different storylines, but one in particular makes me feel obligated to speak up, and it's the stand-in stuff with Bilbo and Judy. Because I am a stand-in. It's how I've made my bread for the past 2 wretched years of my life. Now granted, this film came out in 2003, and intimacy coordinators in film production only became commonplace following Me Too, and the older transport drivers on sets will always tell tales about how in the 80s you could pick up a bump of nose candy with your coffee, so there's a 100% chance that this was probably asked for by some creepy-ass producer or director at some point in the last 100 years, but I'm still calling bullshit. I know it's a joke, it's supposed to be funny, and yeah, I've blocked some scenes that needed an intimacy coordinator, but I'm saying this one for the cheap seats, just in case anyone thinks this is normal. If they ask you to take off your clothes, they need to pay you more and get your signature. But yeah, you should not be expecting depth here. You've got 2 hours of movie spread across 9 storylines, but if you're not a dick about it, you'll probably have an okay time. Love Actually is dumb, schmaltzy, and heteronormative, but it's cute and it's fun. But again, the film being set at Christmas is basically a marketing gimmick, so don't expect raw, unfiltered, holly jolly silver bells deck the halls energy from it either. Basically, you could do much worse in terms of Christmas rom-coms. And speaking of... What's that? You've never heard of While You Were Sleeping? Well, me neither. This was recommended to me by a friend and coworker who told me this is one of their all-time Christmas faves. That said, the plot is so unhinged it feels like satire played straight, so I'm gonna start with that. Sandra Bullock saves a handsome businessman she has been lusting after from being run over by a train, and due to a miscommunication at the hospital, is mistaken for his fiancée by his family because he's in a coma. Sandra Bullock just kind of rolls with this because otherwise she'd be celebrating Christmas alone until handsome man's brother shows up, whom she falls in love with instead. And it is wild how normal all of this is treated by the film.
Well then, go along with it.
Sandra Bullock's coworkers have like a little to say about it.
You're cheating on a vegetable.
But I found myself wishing there was some other story elements or sequences that were equally or more deranged. Actually, wait, the family does make hot brother and fiancé Sandra Bullock kiss under the mistletoe, so that's pretty fucked up. Not that anyone involved thinks so.
Come on, idiot. Kiss her.
Anyway, me having that expectation at all is undoubtedly related to the fact that I'm explicitly not the intended audience for this, but I'm gonna stick to my guns anyway. Some of the best words I can think to describe this film are cute, quiet, and safe, but all those words are kind of in orbit of the word bland, right? Not a lot of calm in this rom-com either. The film's pretty squarely focused on understated sentimentality, which sucks, because it really could have used a little extra something. Like, I'm not asking for a Tarantino movie here, but given how ridiculous the premise is, I feel like the film could have been more messy, or chaotic, or criminal, or something. As is, it's just kind of like any other rom-com, reliably schmaltzy, but not ambitious enough to be much else. And to be clear, I have seen much worse from this genre, but I've also seen so much better. And on the other hand, emotionally, maybe there isn't enough on the page to suggest big filmmaking choices. But then again, if the artists at the wheel aren't finding ways to elevate the material, then they just kind of made a factory movie. And after reading that Julia Roberts, Demi Moore, and Meg Ryan all turned down Sandra Bullock's role, I think there's some credence to that assessment. If you have fond memories of it, that's lovely, and I'm happy for for you, but like, it's at Christmas and it's a rom-com and it's like at least not a Hallmark movie, I guess. I don't know. So the setup's kind of the most interesting thing about this one, and very little will surprise you if you've seen more than 2 rom-coms before, particularly from this era. While I wouldn't say the movie is bad, I certainly wouldn't say it's good either. It's inoffensive entertainment for women who want to live the fantasy of being spoiled for choice in terms of eligible bachelors, except one's in a coma for 2/3 of the movie. Also, the ending has some of the most "I'm just a girl" energy I've seen in a minute. If any of this is what you're into, that's chill. I'm not judging. However, I am going to move on to something that undeniably kicks ass to cleanse my palate. I want to be real with you, so I'm going to say this right off the top. This movie isn't an actual Christmas movie, and I am adding it to my list anyway. You can't stop me, Christmas movie purists. I don't respect you. If anything, though, I would say there's a really strong case for Hundreds of Beavers being thought of as a non-denominational Christmas movie, though, for a few reasons. 1, the entire thing takes place over early winter, which for most of the world is the Christmas season. 2, the movie operates on cartoon logic. It is anti-realist in the same way that The Muppet Christmas Carol and Christmas itself are. You have to deliberately leave cynicism behind to unlock the joy within. And 3, I cannot think of a better film to have on the TV at a Christmas party. These jokes are constant, the plot is secondary to physical comedy, and it is constantly escalating. If I was trying to be cute, I would also mention that the film does contain some minor Yuletide references in the form of Santa, God rest ye merry gentlemen, and the fact that the film states the date as being New Year's Eve at one point, meaning we can work backwards to see that the film does, in fact, take place over Christmas. Plus, the film just deserves an annual watch, and as long as you aren't sharing it with some out-and-out sourpusses, I can think of no better time to do so than a time of year where cultivating joy and mirth with those you like and love is the entire point. That's plenty of rationalization, though. Time to glaze. Is a 2022 ultra-low-budget, black and white, dialogueless, slapstick comedy indie film. It's basically live-action Looney Tunes. If nothing about that description or the footage you're seeing piques your interest, know that you are a whimsyless Philistine. For what it's worth, the film is about a former Applejack brewmaster, Jean Kayak, struggling to become a hunter-trapper and win the affection of the furrier who processes his pelts. I wouldn't say the story is the most appealing thing about the film, though. The creativity of the gags and physical comedy are clearly the draw. But a man's gotta have his motivations, does he not? In any case, it's difficult to understate how impressively the film continuously references and iterates on its gags. The final sequence of Act 2 is a Rube Goldberg machine containing various gags used earlier in the film, resulting in a family-friendly bloodbath, and it is just a joy to watch. Which kind of gets to another part of the film that it does beautifully: escalation of competence in its main character. Jean Kayak goes from himbo life of the party to on the verge of starvation to competent cartoon badass. And that journey feels like it makes complete sense, and for my money, is hilarious to watch over the course of the film. Moreover, the film is frequently surprising in where it goes with a bit, and it'll go a long way to build something up and then suddenly and unceremoniously end it. Everything is just so beautifully stupid! It's great, I love this movie. The sound design and score are even really good. Like, they kind of have to be, because without dialogue, they're carrying the tone and mood of any given sequence, and while people eating shit in mascot costumes is just funny, the crunchiness of a fall, or this Watson Beaver getting slapped, or this idiot trying to pick up a coin. Pitch perfect, no notes, sounds great, I love it. Also of note for the gamers out there is how the film uses video game iconography to efficiently convey information, like this world map, the amount of pelts gained, or what the merchant is selling. Also, tell me that the merchant's shop theme isn't directly inspired by any given Zelda shop theme. You can't, because it is, clearly. Okay, and at this point I am off script because I never finished writing the review, but like, bro, I don't even feel like I have to. I've watched this movie so many times now. It is like such an easy recommendation. Like, if you don't understand what is appealing about this movie, you either don't understand how difficult it is to make a movie, or your taste is just ass. And not good ass, not like a round, shapely, and it looks so good for looking so bad. Like, the cheap, hokey visuals are part of the aesthetic, and it completely works. I genuinely wish I could have made this movie. Like, again, not everybody is gonna like this. I tried to show this to my parents, and they were like, we're gonna go back to watching British cop shows. Everything just works, dude. And like, again, the escalation is like just there. This film keeps getting bigger all the time. You can feel the fun they had making this movie. It's obvious on screen. And again, if you don't like it, yeah, have fun with your Netflix slop, I guess. I don't know, dude, just watch Hundreds of Beavers. Watch it any time of the year. Watch it at Christmas. Just watch it. It's good. Actually, it's great. I'm putting my stamp on that one. This one's a Boxhead certified classic, baby. Merry Christmas. Have a good one. I love you. Mwah. All right, here we are on the end screen. What am I gonna do next? I don't know. Obviously, I'm gonna do one of these next year. Hopefully it'll be out even earlier next year. But I don't know, I was thinking about like, just doing like an awards season movie roundup, because I did see like, I think most of them probably. I was also thinking of doing like, in a similar way to the Ghibli video, a Wes Anderson, not tier list movie video, that, or like movies that hate capitalism as much as you do, or as much as I do. Or, given what I'm seeing in my analytics, I think this is probably like the smartest play. Just like start reviewing movies on the weekly. Frankly, those videos seem to get the best views. So, and also they're just easier to edit. It's just kind of like, oh, here's promotional stuff. You know, use like the trailers. Yeah, I don't know. Please leave a comment. Oh my God, I didn't say like and subscribe. Like and subscribe, please. Please like and subscribe. I love you. Like and subscribe and comment. Thank you. Like and subscribe. Merry Christmas.